All right, today we're going to a place of extremes. I'm talking about the Dead Sea. It's literally the lowest point on the entire planet, a true geological marvel. But here's the thing. This ancient wonder is facing a crisis unlike anything it's seen in millions of years. So let's just start with a big, urgent question. What if the lowest point on Earth was just disappearing? I mean, what happens when a landmark that's been around for millennia starts vanishing right before our very eyes? Because, that's exactly what's happening. And wow, this really shows you what we're talking about. Just look at these satellite images. You see that? From 1972 to 2000, you can physically see the northern part shrinking and the southern part getting almost completely cut off. And let's be clear, this isn't some slow natural process. This is happening fast, and it's happening because of us.
And if you want a number, here it is. The water level is dropping by about 1.2 meters every single year. That's almost 4 feet. Can you imagine that? An ancient sea just vanishing at a rate you could practically measure with a ruler?
And it gets worse. As that super salty water pulls back, it leaves behind really unstable land. So you get fresh water seeping in from the hills, right? It goes underground and starts dissolving these huge ancient salt deposits, basically carving out giant hidden caves. And then, bam, the ground just collapses, creating thousands of these incredibly dangerous sinkholes. Okay, so to really get what we're losing here, we got to go back, way back. We need to understand what makes this sea so incredibly unique in the first place. And its story? Well, it starts deep, deep inside the Earth's crust. You see, the Dead Sea sits in what's called a rift valley. It's all thanks to this massive fault line, the Dead Sea Transform. So for millions of years, you've got the Arabian tectonic plate grinding its way north, right past the African plate. And that movement literally pulled the crust apart, causing this huge chunk of land to just drop. That created the deep basin for this incredible sea. Now, let's talk about the water itself, because its chemistry is just wild. We think of salt water, we think of sodium chloride, table salt. And yeah, the ocean is mostly that. But the Dead Sea? Totally different story. Its main salt is actually magnesium chloride. Look at this. It has over 30 times more magnesium than the ocean. It's this unique, crazy mineral cocktail that makes the Dead Sea so extraordinary. So how did it get so salty? Well, the Dead Sea is what's known as a terminal lake. That's a fancy way of saying water flows in, but it has no way to flow out. The only escape for the water is to evaporate. So, for thousands and thousands of years, the relentless desert sun has been doing just that, leaving behind this super concentrated, dense mineral soup, which, of course, is what lets you float so easily. All right, so with a name like the Dead Sea, you'd think it's completely lifeless, right? I mean, for centuries, that's what pretty much everyone believed. But it turns out that's not the whole story, not even close. Think about it. Since ancient times, people saw fish get washed in from the Jordan River and just die instantly. So you can see why they came to the conclusion that absolutely nothing could survive in there. It was this beautiful but totally sterile place. But here's the twist. They were looking in the wrong place. They were looking for things with fins and scales. The real life in the Dead Sea is way, way smaller and a whole lot tougher. Scientists eventually discovered this whole hidden world of microorganisms called extremophiles, specifically a group known as Haloarchaea. And these little guys are incredible. They don't just tolerate extreme salt, they absolutely need it to live. In fact, if you put them in fresh water, they'd literally burst. So how on earth do they do it? It's genius, really. Most living things, if you put them in salt water, they try to pump the salt out to survive. These microbes, they do the exact opposite. They have this brilliant salt-in strategy. They actively pull salt ions into their cells until their insides are just as salty as the water outside. This stops them from dehydrating. Their entire biology, their very proteins, have evolved to only work when they're swimming in this intense salt bath. It's just an unbelievable feat of evolution. Okay, so beyond its wild geology and biology, the Dead Sea was also a super important resource for the ancient world, but for a really surprising reason. It was all about this mysterious black stuff. For centuries, these big chunks of natural asphalt, or bitumen, would bubble up from deep under the seafloor and just float to the surface. And to the ancient Greeks and Romans, this stuff was so valuable that they didn't even call it the Dead Sea. They called it Lake Asphaltes, the asphalt lake. That's how important it was.
And this bitumen was like a cornerstone of ancient tech. The Egyptians imported it, it was a key ingredient for mummification, the Romans used it for all sorts of medicine, and its sticky properties were revolutionary. I mean, it was basically the superglue of the ancient world, used for everything from sticking spear points onto shafts to waterproofing boats. So think about that. This sea has been a source of wonder, of life, of critical resources for thousands and thousands of years. But its biggest challenge didn't come from shifting tectonic plates or changing climates. No, its greatest threat has come from just the last 100 years of human activity. So, what's at the heart of this modern crisis? The answer is both simple and, honestly, tragic. The Dead Sea is being starved of its lifeblood, water. This chart, it just says it all. Historically, the Jordan River was the Dead Sea's main artery, right? It used to pour about 1.3 billion cubic meters of fresh water into the sea every year. Today, that flow has been choked down to about 100 million cubic meters. That is a drop of over 90%. Just staggering. So, why? Why is this happening? It's all about water diversion. Upstream from the Dead Sea, water from the Jordan River and its tributaries is being pulled away by Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and the Palestinian Authority. And it's used to support agriculture, industry, and of course, growing populations in what is one of the most water-scarce regions on the entire planet. And this is the result. A landscape in full retreat. The shoreline just pulls back year after year, exposing these vast salt-encrusted mudflats. It's like a ghostly reminder of where the water used to be. The whole ecosystem is collapsing, and the ground itself is becoming unstable and dangerous. And that brings us to this final, really challenging question. How do we balance the very real water needs of millions of people with the responsibility of preserving one of Earth's greatest natural wonders? You know, the Dead Sea isn't just a local issue. It's a perfect, if painful, example of a global conflict. It forces all of us to ask how we can meet our immediate needs without destroying these irreplaceable treasures for the future. And for the Dead Sea, the clock is ticking fast.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.